Welcome everybody to the Keys to Wisdom channel. Just want to do a quick video, though I don't know how quick it'll be, explaining why and where the equation for the great year comes from. So I've got 4 great years apiece represented by A, B to Z, the alphabet, times 5 rows is 20, 21, 22, and then on the 23rd time, here we are at Q, which is the final time that the letters of the alphabet repeating reach the point of equality. It comes 1, 2, 3 days later after the second to last period of equality. O, P, Q. So when I'm doing the 17 divided by 26, this Q, 17 spot, is the basis, and Z, the 26th spot, is the basis, and the great year is the basis of using them. And it's in terms all about the charge. So at this point here, if equality does not stick, the next character that is going to come on is the character of R, 1008 years. And now this is the Zion side. This is the Scion side. Zion is real. Scion is real. They're not the same things. Okay? They're similar, but not the same things. So here at R, the difference is plus 27 charge of Zion. S is a Zion charged character. It's going to reduce the charge. So it's going to be plus 18 Zion. T is a Zion character, and it's going to increase the charge. Right, it looks like plus 54. Now as you go the rest of the way, every single age, every single time is Zion. It is the potential for the eternal Mount Zion to rise. Here, Zion Mountain. The only answer that once this happens, to ever get back to the state of equality, right, that was last had at the Q, the 3 days, the sign of Jonah, all of that, Jesus, resurrection, Easter, all of that is here. This is where the stories come from. They're based literally off of the word, right? The only way out of this would be to go into what are called the 5 trees of paradise, which completes the second script, which is from 3 to 31. The entire original Word of God, unbelocked air, pure vowel, just like all of our native tongues are when we arrive here and we begin speaking, is just the first 2 characters, 2 vowels, before corruption, after the C-lock, and time comes upon, it infiltrates back to the B-lock, right? English and rules. B, lock, block, no space. C, lock, clock, no space. A, space, lock. A, lock, right? Unlocked, locked, locked, right? But the actual origin of the locks in the lock is from C, not from B. It infiltrates backwards, right? It's basically like history. The victor writes history. It's not accurate. It's based upon the accounts of the victors that are pretty well slanted. So when I put in Zion Mountain, Mountain is not charged. Zion is not charged in terms of word. That is the moral of Zion and this entire thing. Right, so we have some of our 504 deals, 45 times, 54 times, 108 times, 801 times, right? To get all the way from the very beginning to this Q, at the time length is 586,035 years and change, right? Because each Z age is 659 years and change. All of the others are 1008. The only difference is A and B is a single age at 2016 years. So you have one age, 2016 years. 23 ages of 1008 years to Y, and then you have the Z. And the days of Z are cut short and wrapped back to the beginning AB again, right? And it's always been about equality, which we'll get into. I'm going to work my way backwards. We're going to start here. Is the first chance at equality after the fall. Right? AB, it was always equality. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Right, but then it goes on to go past that and say that the earth was formless and void and the Spirit of God was hovering above the waters, right? But what it's saying in Genesis 1:1 is that the heavens always had the ability to fall into matter and become the earth, right? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. It's nothing but heavens. Later, it became the earth. Right? Everything's dark. There is no charge, right? Even to this day, what they call dark matter is what is still left of the heavens. And everything that has fallen into matter from protium hydrogen upwards, and protium hydrogen is the only atom in existence that does not have a nucleus with a neutron within its nucleus, because it come from a neutron, right? These A's and B's were all neutrons. A is a single neutron, B is a neutron pair, expressed best through the uppercase, right? Lowercase, as above, uppercase, not in the heavens, not so below, right? Here. Now it's been bursted, right? One of them, right? So, and then you can also look at the deal of the protium, the weight and mass of a protium hydrogen atom that's made of a neutron or a proton and an electron. It's slightly less than one single neutron with a piece missing. That is the deficiency. All matter is in a state of deficiency because all electron proton are pairs, but they're one single split in half. Everything that has any electrons and protons in it is wrapped in that deficiency. It's not whole, right? It's the symbol, the Ouroboros symbol going around. You can call that Hydra, hydrogen, right? The original serpent. It's also the original water. So in Genesis 1:2, when they're talking about the earth was formless and void and the Spirit of God was hovering above the waters, the Spirit of God is all still A's and B's, which was still vowels, right, that are not yet waters in terms of hydrogen and eventually helium, right? And A's were always single and B's were always double, but there was never any such thing as order of three. Order of three is unlawful, right? A neutron can sit around by itself, do great. Pairs of neutrons sit around by themselves. That's where the touch comes from, right? and all of heaven, all of the heavens, basically polygamists, right? They form pairs with others in heaven, and then they split back off into singles and form pairs again with another constantly, right? We still have a lot of these traces from the heavens in us. Right here, we've got all this marriage concept and till death do us part and all of this other stuff, but just like all of the animals and everything, right? A human man that's attracted to one woman is attracted to a lot of women. A human woman that's attracted to one man is attracted to a lot of men, right? And that's a very natural thing. And where it come from is also that the heavens, it was very natural and not not an issue in terms of whores and gigolos and all of the other bullshit like that. But so this is the first time it comes back to equal, and that's why it flipped around. And we get our origins in the time when it connects to the 2016 year age of that A and the B. Right? The very first time it ever becomes charged as Zion is at Z plus 9. Zion. Right? And all of our formulas for our 540 are also in here. I'm going to have to do some other videos explaining things, but our usage of the 540s to create the 1008s so that we can move along exactly the same as the alphabet goes and exactly the same as the great year goes, right? All of the formulas to show those keys in the 540 production is right in here within the alphabet, just as and what I'm showing you is what the word teaches, the teaching of the word of the great year. Then there's a teaching of the world of the great year, which would be the 25,920 deal, right? Which is 2,880 times 9, right? And we also in here would have 25. Let's see, what could we do? 25. 28 plus 1 would be 25, 2, 9, which would be, again, the same expression as the 25,920 from the 2880. And of course, the 2880 relates in the seconds, 2 days. It says 2 days, right? So when we attach, again, you can read into it, and we attach here, right? And you have some semi-accurate but inaccurate stuff out there. They'll say 1,000 years is a day to God, right? People say that all over the place. This has a 2 days through the seconds, right? 1,044 or 1,440 seconds or minutes is 1 day. 2,880 minutes is 2 days. So really it's telling us in here about those 2 days, which Z attaches to. Goes back to the beginning. This is the creation of the great year, written right on the face of the sky. If it ever goes into the 5 trees of paradise to, again, make a play for that balance that can never be achieved again once the potentially eternal Zion Mountain or Mount Zion rises after that Q, beginning with the R on the 23rd great year trip around after 586,035 years and change, right? The scroll, the face of the sky, everything would be rewritten. You jump into the 5 trees of paradise, the 27th to 31st, right? Genesis 1 is a full month. 31 is a full month, right? But that's why we flipped it around, right? And again, 12 times 12, 144. 144, 12 plus 12, 24. Our days and our hours, right? Even here would be a cross bisecting the day into 4 different parts, right? 6, 6, 6, 6 hours of the day, things like that. But the very first time that Zion ever takes charge is here. All the way from C to Y, from the fall, right? The point that hydrogen gets made, right? All the way. It's Zion charged. More on the Zion side. All the way. All the way. Right? Zion is real. Zion is real. Now, when they're using these terminology in the world, right, it's legit. It's legit. Zion is a legit thing. Zion is real. Zion is real. Right? When they start this letter C, right, also with the that's all about the same stories. Let those who have ears hear. All about, it's laced into the Adam and Eve, the serpent, and the eating, and all of that, right? Why is anything eating? Well, because it's deficient. It's not whole. It's trying to acquire from other things the things that it lacks, right? Prior to the fall, prior to the waters, and then earth. Earth actually does not begin until lithium. Lithium is the first solid earth element, right? It's just the first 2 waters, hydrogen and helium. I was talking too about the order of 3, right? It's in hydrogen. Protium hydrogen is 1. Even though it's expressed split in half, the proton electron. But the expression in the proton electron is showing it's not split in half equally, right? But it's an order of 1. It's stable element, the only element that has no neutron in it. Then there is deuterium hydrogen. It has 1 neutron, which is representative of 1, and the proton electron is representative of the other one. It's still order of 2. It is a stable element, deuterium. Then you have tritium, which is order of 3. You have 2 neutrons in the nucleus with the proton and electron, right? And that is unstable. It is radioactive. It's got a half-life of 12.32 years, right? One of those neutrons will die in that decay, and that tritium hydrogen atom will turn into helium-3. So when the fall came down, the creation of all hydrogen was created through the fall, and the hydrogen also created up to helium-3 in the fall, the second waters, right? Not hovering above the water, is plural, 2, right? The waters, hydrogen and helium. And the Spirit of God still has neutron hovering above the waters, right? But it was a big slaughter at that time. There is a reverse process here. Over 999 times out of every 1,000 times, the 2 protium hydrogen atoms are collided together, they will produce helium-2, and that'll quickly fall apart back into 2 protium atoms. But less than 1 time out of every 1,000 times the 2 protium hydrogen atoms are collided together, they will form a deuterium atom, which means one of the dead ass protium hydrogen was resurrected back into the state of a neutron. This is what changed absolutely everything. In the beginning of the fall, it was an absolute slaughter. All of the neutrons are only innocent as doves, right? And then here comes the liar and the murderer from the very beginning, right? In terms of the first protium hydrogen, which is a suicide event from neutron, and it has to do with something unhappy about splitting up in a pair that it was in. It was the first time it happened, and none of the neutrons, it was still innocent as duh. It didn't know anything about any of this sick ass shit that we find ourselves in the midst of that's been going on ever since. It didn't know about anything, just decided to try to end itself. It was very upset, right? They cover it in the Gospel of Thomas, right? There was a powerful man who wanted to slew a powerful man. In his own house, he put the sword through the wall to see if his hand could carry through, and he slew the powerful man. That's himself, suicide, right? You are just like your father, who is a liar and a murderer from the beginning, right? Usage of Jesus later, telling the Jews who they're following, right? You're in the synagogue of Satan, right? How dare you, you little bastards, right? On the deal. But so then it basically started lying to and causing all these other suicides to happen. They had no defense. They're just innocent as doves, right? But then one of those collisions, they're so violent and crazed because of the deficiency that not only are they attacking other neutrons, they're attacking each other, right? You still see this behavior here in humanity, right? We're a species, one species, but, right? And we attack every other species that there is, just like everything here attacks everything else, right? But we also attack our own species. We don't, it's not like Planet of the Apes, what was it, ape not kill ape or some bullshit like that, right? Well, that's something similar that was going on. So the hydrogen are attacking other hydrogen. They're colliding into each other, right? Because they're starving like Marvin. That's where the deficiency and the ignorance was born there, right? Those first waters, it actually, the first flood was in the heavens, right? The first flood was in the heavens, and the act of baptism and all of that, and holy water and stuff that people have got going on here, people don't even understand it, right? To enter the kingdom of heaven, you have to be born again, right? We're all wrapped in this deficiency, right? To get back into that state, we have to be born again through a reverse process. But once that happened, and the two protium hydrogen atoms collided together and formed deuterium hydrogen, and the one protium was resurrected from the dead into, again, the living physical body of a neutron. That one became the first one, who was now as wise as serpents, hydrogen, and as innocent as doves, neutron. It had the mental ability still of the hydrogen to play those games, to lie, cheat, steal, all of that, not fall for any of that, because it was there, right? But it now has the physical form, which is a superior, stronger physical form than the protium, right? As we can still see that to this day in terms of the weight between protium and a single neutron, right? Well, that one realized, and very quickly, rather than deuterium being like a stable thing, when one of the protium hydrogen, attacked another neutron and latched on to a single neutron, well, the single neutron was innocent as doves. It didn't realize, I'm bigger, I'm stronger than you, and I can defend myself, because it's all it's ever known. It wasn't prepared for it. The environment there was all peaceful, great. There was no defenses like Earth. Every single thing has defenses, which are also offenses, right? it was an entirely different state. So when a protium hydrogen originally attached to a single innocent neutron, it could bully it around and do all kinds of things to it. Because it knew how to play those games, right? Very quickly, in the environment of the deficiency, all of the nastiness that there is started to be acquired, right? By those starving like Marvin hydrogens. But when the one was resurrected and in that deuterium pair, it knows the deal, right? Throws that damn protium right off of it, and that is the one that wound up leading the war in heaven and communicating with all of the other neutrons. Hey, these things cannot hurt you. You're bigger, you're stronger than them. They're liars. You can control this deal, right? But there was the other issue was the tritium. The protium hydrogen were attacking the neutron pairs and forming those tritium atoms and causing half of those to die, right? 1/3, 2/3, all of that stuff is in here, right? So in order to preserve those neutron pairs that we're getting attached to in terms of the becoming tritium, right, they started directing the different collisions, which would be Genesis 1:3, and then God said, let there be light, and there was light. All of the very same fusion things that humanity is beginning to get a grasp of now are those things of the war in heaven, right? A deuterium atom led by that neutron direction, because it's wise as serpents and lets them all know, flies in and collides with a tritium atom. Boom, it's either going to knock out one of the neutrons or it's going to knock out one of the protium hydrogen, the proton and electron would get knocked out. So it's either it'll produce what? Helium-4 because it's got two neutrons, a proton, electron at tritium. So it's going to be producing helium-4. So everything in creation upwards, helium-4 and upwards, eventually into the earth, is all from the side of that returned neutron after winning the war in heaven, right? And all of those collisions, right? Deuterium colliding with hydrogen or tritium hydrogen is a very powerful fusion deal. Deuterium colliding with deuterium, deuterium colliding with helium-3 also. So you can collide deuterium into helium-3 and form helium-4 as well. And in that case, then one of the protium hydrogen will be ejected when it forms helium-4. On tritium, it's going to knock out one of the neutrons to form helium-4. There's a lot of 50-50 principles. If you look into the fusion fuel cycle deal, right, that you can see all of the different principles within it. 50-50, 50-50, 50-50, 50-50, right, on the stuff. Same way you collide two deuterium together, half the time you're going to produce tritium hydrogen, half the time you're going to produce helium-3. This is all the most basic stuff. And everything, what goes up must come down. It also comes down. Right? Which breaks everything down. Really, there's only two things that makes absolutely everything that there is in matter. Those two things are neutrons and protium hydrogen. When you put them into different chains, combinations, the reactions, they become what are the other elements from lithium up, right? And they have different design properties, right? Oxygen was a design to become a hydrogen prison, right? All of our water is one hydrogen atom imprisoning one oxygen atom imprisoning two hydrogen atoms in our water, right? And part of the creation of Earth and this life that grows on it was about it becoming a prison for hydrogen. And our moon right now represents it, right? Our solar system tells the same story I'm telling you here, right? Mercury and Venus are neutron representations, no moons. Earth is hydrogen representation, one moon, electron. Mars is two electron moons. It's a helium representation. And then you have the asteroid belt, which is basically signifying lithium. And that is where all hell breaks loose, right? And you get out of the form of waters and into the actual form of Earth, which also has a lot of different repercussions later on, right? When they talk about Satan getting cast down to earth and 1/3 of the angels with him, well, that 1/3 and 2/3 is in here, right? And that has different perspectives about it, right? Objecting neutrons that were never in the deficiency don't have a full grasp of being wise as serpents, like the first return neutron and any other neutrons that have returned that were hydrogen. The ones that have always been neutrons and never anything else, they don't have the same perspective. They learned a little bit of that was shared with them from the return neutrons, but they don't have the same grasp, so they have a different set of morals. They're still operating on what always was until the fall, and those type of morals there. So it's actually a very natural thing that what wound up happening, and it's told. The story is told is that there winds up being a disagreement between the two different types of neutrons. Those that are mostly only innocent as doves and only slightly wise as serpents, because they learn from the other ones that they are mostly wise as serpents, the return ones, and slightly innocent as doves, right? The physical form. But the mental form is bigger than even the physical form. Right? So they didn't see eye to eye and they're cast down, right? And a lot of people here, like we're talking about the flood story and Noah and all of that. A lot of people don't go to look at science. Right? A lot of people think that science debunks religion, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Genesis 1 is an atomic science text. In reality, Jesus was an atomic science teacher. So many of the things, some of them are in the Bible, but you go to the Gospel of Thomas, there's so much atomic science teaching within there that it's not even funny, right? And that's basically all of our stories about the fall and everything. It all starts there, right? When the creation of matter. So anyways, there's a disagreement, right? And they say Satan and 1/3 of the angels are cast down. You have to realize that once the earth is formed and the vegetation starts growing and there's a very oxygen-rich environment, right? That once a bunch of hydrogen is expelled, now it could be just in a protium form, right? It's all rounded up into the sun, literal lakes of fire, right? Hydrogen, helium, all that fusion deal. It's literal lakes of fire, right? The sun could eject out nothing but protium hydrogen right at the earth. As soon as it begins hitting the oxygen-rich environment, it pours like crazy. It floods everything out. But because of what we're dealing with, it doesn't have to be just protium, hydrogen, right? Other neutrons in heaven can be ejected as well. And even within the stories, they say Satan and the other angels, they're still angels, right, at the time when they're ejected. But if they're on the innocent as doves side of the scale, right, they don't have all of the defenses and knowledge of being wise as serpents as the return neutrons. So it's actually possible that just like when it was the slaughter began and there was no resistance from the heavens and the neutrons and all of the waters was falling and forming and flooding out the heavens, right? In a neutron that is so mostly all innocent as doves don't understand all the tricks can actually be cast down by the return neutron working with the other side of hydrogen. It says you grab them, they'd be cast down in the form of deuterium, and then deuterium hydrogen hitting the atmosphere rich in oxygen would produce the same floods, right? And we see within our waters here on Earth, there's both, right? There's deuterium heavy water, and then there is protium-based water. And there's special properties as well relating to those deuterium-based waters, right? You're going to find more deuterium-based water near the equators than you are near the poles. So it migrates, it huddles more towards the equator. The propensity for it is greater at the equator and gets lesser the further you go away. Deuterium also will huddle more at sea level than it will at elevation. So the higher you go in elevation, the lower the instance of finding deuterium-laced water will be, right? And these have different effects upon the life here too, right? Everything in the Bible's got things about the changing of the longevity and lifespans of humanity from 900s, 1,000-year deals to down to like the 120 deals now, right? Well, you can kind of see the effects of deuterium water on life and how that changes it, right? And we have it in the evidence. There's been a discharge of deuterium, right? The only other possible option for why there's deuterium in the water would be prior, past, right? We've been around here a long time, a lot longer than the religious claims, right, of time duration, right? Though I believe they're speaking about different, they're resetting clocks for different, based on different events from this, right? But they're not accurately saying exactly how long we've been here. Even the Great Year, right? We're getting it down here and we're finding out everything about the Great Year, but you can come to understand the Great Year to a super high degree, which we're on our way to doing right here, but you're still going to have issues with how many times have we been around the Great Year, right? I can know the Great Year like the back of my hand, inside and out, but it's a different story to know the amount of revolutions that we've been through. And then here also, right, we know the revolutions of Earth and the length of the days and the years and all of that. We know it like the back of our hand. Well, not really. So many people will say there's 365 days in a year, and there's never once ever been an actual year of 365 days. Every single year has got the 366th day that's cut short, right? Every single year. So there's never a 365 day. There is on a calendar, a piece of paper, a tracking system. Then they do the leap to try to make up for it. Those cut off days and things like that. They didn't for a while in the Julian calendar. They just let it lag, right? Well, they did have the leap in there, but they intentionally made the calendar lag, but they knew the mathematics of what they were doing when they did it. In the Gregorian reform, that also starts a clock. It's about the third day, right? We're in the third day of the Gregorian reform right now. Skip 10 days, another 3, right? Difference between Gregorian and Julian right now is 13 days, right? It's the third day of the Gregorian reform, which I believe the Julian Gregorian calendar was reset for a specific point later on down the line, right? 2016 is 2 ages, right? And there's something real big about that point and around that point in time, right? And going back prior to that, why they started the new calendar system. Says, oh, it's year 2024, right? It's we've been here a lot longer than that. Calendar is showing, everybody knows that, right? Even all the religious with their short things, right? Nobody tries to say we've been here only 2024 years, right? So you can understand the concept of this stuff restarting, right? What it's based on, but to actually know the amount of times around, we don't know that, right? We understand the cycles of Earth time every way, right? Solar years, lunar years, all of it. We understand that very good, but it still doesn't help us to grasp how long the Earth has been here, actually, right? We understand all the movement, all the rotation, right? The lengths, but we have no capability of understanding how many times we've been around. Well, the great year is the same type of principle. So I'm back into this after our side deal, but it's not really a side deal. That's what it's all about, right? So it's Zion all the way to Y. First time it's Zion, and that's why it's called Zion, right? More every single time. Look at 2 here, like we're going on the 23rd time at that Q. See how related that 540 is to 2160? We got our moon. Look at all this stuff that we got in here. It's in here galore. A, B to Q, right? And we're using 504 frequencies to go across the 1008 years each time. But here at this point, A, B to Q, right? A lot of the stuff that we're doing is also in there. So we got the 22 complete great years. It all kicks back to everything we're doing. And the 23rd great year at Q, the last time equality is hit before it's eternal Mount Zion all the way, well, it has a bunch of the same stuff within it, right? N and Q is also as low as it goes in terms of the control charge of Mount Zion, which is the original fallen charge, right? The first charge is Zion. Later it's zzz, 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 right? At Zion. So what is it? 198 minus 198. O, P, Q minus 198. It actually forms a fish with a tail. I've got different graphs and things made up and that I've had made up for me explaining this over the years. But I don't know if I'll throw one in or not, but that's something to see in there. But all the way here to Zion, right? And that's the original charge, right? -9, Zion. And prior to the fall, there was no charge. And there's actually, right, there's no such thing as the operation of nines, right? Within the word, It's all single digits, 4 and 4, right? Same air bubble is still in the 4 as in the A. The B and the 8, there's symbolism. That's why they connect the way they do here. Well, it's still within the word, right? I'm not the first time that the word is being freely given to the entire world. Anybody who wants it can come and get it, right? This has happened over and over and over again, and then it gets hidden. And the liars and murderers who are just like their father, right? They do their thing again, right? But the same thing, the 8 and the B and the A and the 4, there's the same symbolic things within them, but they were always separate. Single neutron, double neutron, neutron pairs, right? Lowercase, not, right? As above, not so below, not anymore, right? It's a big morals between in uppercase, lowercase, A, B, C, D, E, A, B, C, D, E, 1, 2, 3, 4 air bubbles, 1, 2, 3, 4 air bubbles. The popped bubble of B is transferred over here to E within there. So there's a lot of different things. There's big information in the difference between uppercase and lowercase, right? And the moral, when you put it out there, is as above, not so below, right? For a lot of things. Some things are as above, so below. Other things have been transmuted, right? Which is what happened to that original hydrogen, right? There's no such thing as death. Life is eternal. Life is eternal. But it got transmuted into that hydrous deal, and then we're all wrapped up into it, right? After death, we're transmuted into something else, right? When Jesus has these teachings in there too, right? When you're eating things, you're making that what is alive, and eating the dead, and making that what is alive, right? We all feed on each other, all in this eternal circle, right? Earth has potential that it would eternally, this type of life here, deficient life, could exist here potentially eternally, just like Mount Zion can exist potentially for eternity. But in this fallen state of deficiency, it is life, death, life, death, life, death, life, death cycle, right? And just like Jesus says, he who's found the world has found nothing but a corpse, right? There is nothing living here. Everything here is dying. Why? Because of deficiency. Why? Because it's in matter. What makes matter actual matter? Proton and electron, right? And what changes, what transmutes things, right? I can take a protium hydrogen atom and I can stick in a neutron and it's still hydrogen, it's deuterium. I stick in a second neutron, it's still hydrogen, it's tritium. You can continue to stick neutron after neutron after neutron into hydrogen. It will create things and problems just like it does at tritium in the unlawful order of 3. Higher, it'll create unstable stuff and it'll degrade and there'll be issues. But as long as it's just the one proton electron pair and nothing but neutrons, I can have 10 million neutrons in one proton, one electron. That's still hydrogen. It is the proton and the electron that transmutes things, right? Just like it's the very same thing. It's tritium hydrogen atom, 2 neutrons, 1 proton electron. When it degrades and decays, it transmutes, becomes helium-3 because there's now 2 proton electrons, 1 neutron. So it is the change agent in our matter up and down the scale is when each protium electron addition is made, it transmutes into something else. Neutron doesn't change it, right? In the snapshot or small space of time, right? It will cause issues, radioactivity, instability, things like that when you have the monstrous amounts of neutrons within any of these elements. We have different isotopes, right? You can take through your mind into isotopes bigger than anything anybody has ever seen here. Well, it's the same deal, right? What transmutes everything is the electron and proton. That's what transmuted everything from in the beginning when it was all heavens. God created the heavens and the earth, right? It says it right in the very first verse, but there was no earth and there's no waters. There's only pure heavens in Genesis 1:1, right? Genesis 1:2 clarifies that. That's now we got some waters going. Earth is still formless and void. It's just the waters, hydrogen, helium. And then God said, let there be light. Genesis 1:3. Let 3 be light, and 3 was light, right? All of that, there was no light prior to that. What is that light all about? It's about, again, the waters. The waters are rounded up into lakes of fire, literal, right? People don't think of the sun as a lake. People don't think of hydrogen and helium as waters, but they are, right? Different environments later can change them into the gases, but they're waters in the original heaven, polluted, flooding heavens environment, right? In the prior to other matter, lithium and up earth types of materials, right? It's just all neutrons and the waters. In that environment, they weren't even gases, right? Later on, they get different properties, just as when they start to be combined together to build everything, they acquire different properties as each protium hydrogen addition is made, right? That's what changes everything. If I add 1 protium hydrogen atom to any element, single atom of any element here, it's going to change it to a new element. If I subtract 1 protium hydrogen atom, electron and proton from any element here, it's going to change it into a different element, right? That's all the same deal. So what am I getting? 53 plus minutes into this. This is why I'm going through all the stuff that I'm doing here, right? I'm working on using it all to tell all of the story, right? There's nothing hidden that will not be revealed, right? Everything that's hidden will be uncovered and will manifest, right? All this stuff that I'm showing you here in terms of these numbers and the combinations of them and the origin of Sion and Zion and the great year relation, all of this. When you've seen, every time you in your life you've seen the alphabet A, B to Z, right? That all this stuff I'm showing you has been in your plain sight. You just haven't recognized it. It's always been there, right? Whether you're aware of it being in there doesn't change whether or not it's there, right? Just like the atomic nature of all of this stuff, humanity again rising to the point of starting to have some knowledge of atomic science and functioning at that very micro level, right? Every time somebody looked at anything here, right, those underlying atoms and the action in those elements was always going on. Whether they were aware of it, their recognition of it had no bearing on whether or not it was going on, right? It was always going on. You look at a rock, there I am, right? Split a piece of wood, there I am, right? You, everywhere it's going on. That creation principles that I'm talking about here. It's, humanity doesn't have to have the knowledge of it or the awareness of it. That doesn't dictate whether or not it's going on, right? There's all kinds of things that are going on, and we're looking right at them. We don't recognize them, right? It says to recognize what is in your plain sight, and the things that are hidden from you will be revealed to you. That's a literal deal. I'm doing the same thing right now here with the alphabet. All of these numbers, all the relations into everything else as what humans again coming into the knowledge of atomic science would again, the same thing happen there, right? We could go into the blood knowledge too, right? Within the Bible, one of the most common words ever said is blood, 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 blood. Well, humans had very, very high level knowledge of blood at one time, and then the Pharisees and the scribes, similar type of thing, they didn't have any knowledge. It all went away, right? And then eventually we rose back up in terms of knowledge power to the point where we are now again today, and we understand the different blood types and the differences between Rh positive and negative, and we get into the reproductive differences, right, and issues and different things like that, right, within that. But all of those issues that with the blood we can now see and we have knowledge of, we're aware of it, that was always going on amongst human populations and pairs of humans mixing and trying to create another being, right, together, right? That was always going on, whether we were aware of it or not. It was going on, and it always had effects on humans, right? They weren't aware of it. They'd be aware that, all right, this woman is having a hard time conceiving, and yada, yada, yada. Oh, there must be something wrong with her. She is barren, deal, 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 right? But they're not aware of the fact that, right, if she's an Rh negative woman back in those times before pre-modern rig, ROGAM, different type of things, right, that the reason she's not conceiving a child is because her partner is an Rh positive male and her body is an Rh negative female, has a defense mechanism built in it against that Rh positive, and once it's been activated, it's going to pretty much guarantee that every time she will conceive, she is not going to make it very far in terms of pregnancy, right? That's all going on. People are seeing issues. They have no comprehension, no awareness of the underlying blood things. Later on, right now, we're aware of it. We've recognized it. But it was always in our plain sight, right? When those issues were happening in different instances, right? Can't say it's always was that instant. There are some women who are born that just have issues being able to reproduce. Could be something to do with uterine deformities or other things like that. You know, there are other reasons, but there's been a lot of stuff going on in terms of the blood types and the blood types of the pairings coming together were a lot of those issues. Well, we can understand that now. We got so far along in understanding that now that we overpower it with medical intervention, program, rig shots. It doesn't matter if your mother now is a RH negative, she can have kids with anybody she wants because modern medical science will alter her body and help her to do what she could not do otherwise without that, right? Not very often. It's not impossible, but it is not. It's a design mechanism. It's this huge design mechanism. But all this stuff is about awareness, right? And instance after instance, we see all the way along our path of humanity that we have acquired new awareness and new understandings for things that were always within our plain sight. And all of this stuff that I'm showing you here, so it's always been in your plain sight. All of the values of this, all of the connections, everything that I'm doing here is stuff that has always been in your plain sight. The only reason I'm able to show it to you and talk about it is because of I'm aware of this, aware of it. I recognize it. But even still, right, there's still stuff that I'm looking at, it's going right past me. It's in my plain sight. I'm not grasping it, right? And over time, I keep making different jumps, right? So, oh my goodness, how many years have I been looking at the same thing and I never saw this before, and now I'm aware of it. It's there. It's right in my plain sight. And then I go on. I share it with others and begin to expand upon it. But all of that stuff is what is going on here. This is why, right? No charge. Scion charge, the very first charge of the fall, right? D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y. Still Scion charge all the way, more here than here. This is why it's called Zion. Z, first charge, Zion, right? Now we got some principles, right? Could go on to the 27th character, the first of the 5 trees of paradise, 2731, equivalent of VE, and now it's jumped from +9 at Z, Zion, to +90 right here, right? But this charge was an underling charge the entire time, 1008 years each age, all the way along to the Z, right? And it has some experience with being an underling and how wrong that is to be the one put under, right? And all of us understand this, right? Let's take a little bastard like Prince William, gets born into a family and says, oh, you're from a family that's got the divine right and all this other bullshit, and your grandma's a queen and your dad's gonna be king and you're gonna be king and all this stuff, right? It's very hard that one in that environment to look at it and say, no, this is all fucked up and wrong, right? But on the other environment, you're the subject, the peasant, whatever you want to call it, of the king, right? You're basically property or a slave of somebody else. You're the underling, right? It's very easy to recognize, well, this shit is all fucking wrong, right? Who is this motherfucker to have everything and control over everything and power to do anything they want to anybody and obviously do wicked, unlawful things that the common people get dealt with over? Well, that fucker does the same thing, and none of the same laws don't apply to him, or whatever, right? It's easy, right? It's hard for an owner of a slave to come to grasp with the equality concept. It's easy for the slave of an owner to come to grasp it, right? It's hard for a slave owner to grasp how wrong what is going on is happening, right? Because they're the one doing it, right? But it's easy for the slave to grasp how wrong what is happening is, right? So you go from the slave, and it's just like the story in Planet of the Apes, back and forth, right? Right? You go from the slaves, you're the apes in the zoos and whatever else, right? Now the script flips. Now it becomes Zion, right? Could go on. Two wrongs don't make a right, though. What makes a right is equality, and that is the moral of the Great Year Principle. Why we went, these days were cut short and wrapped back to the beginning, which started, right? It's all equality. Then when this repeats, it's all about equality. The A and the B is all about equality. It's not going to change any charge going through it. And then reaching that Z, right? And that's really the manifestation of these that are within the A and the B before any of this fall happens, right? The Z is one side of charge, the C is the other side of charge, but prior to that, they're all equals here in the middle, right? And it connects it all together. Boom, 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 boom. Right, 12 times 12, 144, all of those different principles and everything that was, again, here, that's what it went back to, right? Two wrongs do not make a right, doesn't go up that hill and change that charge, right? See, because it could change that charge a second time around from plus 9 Zion. That's why it's called Zion. It has literal meaning coming from the word, right? To here, and now it's plus 90. What happened here with C is after that fall, C is at plus 9, and the D comes on. Now it's plus 54. The first character of Zion that fights the other way is actually the E, now reduces it to 36, right? This is programmed to this day within the capital of the United States of America, not Washington, D.C., Washington, D.C., not Washington, D.C. And this whole thing plays out as well again. D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z, A, B, C. Here's the chance, right? Could all end here. And now it's back. Nothing but it. The way it was, right? But again, not washing. Wash is a tie. D.C. Boom. Zion takes the charge back, right? So a failure here, right? A failure, a fall from here, an attempt for restoration back to here, another fall, that's the D, right? That's what would get us through all of these great years to the point of that Q, where our formula comes in for here, where it's the absolute last chance at this before the potentially eternal Mount Zion would begin to rise, right? All about that, right? And here we are, it's manifesting. What I'm showing you in the word is manifesting right now, right? Is the United States of America and the absolute wicked monsters who are currently occupying the White House that, right? They have absolute no interest in any type of multipolar world, and right? They want to be able to have free reign and control over everything like they've had before. So even if it means tons of the common people or everybody, whatever type of destruction that it takes, right? We're seeing it manifest now as they are all about making sure the other potential powers like Russia and China, right, don't get to their level. And absolutely everything that they're doing is about not Washington, D.C. There's going to be no tie and no peace and nothing like that, right? We're ahead of this game, and we're going to do what was done right here, what was done right here, right? We're going to take it to you and destroy you and make sure that you're not a threat to us. There's not going to be multipolarity. It's going to be unipolar deal, and we're going to retain our spot as the top dog, not Washington, D.C., right? It's manifesting right out of the word. All this stuff here in the word, I'm pretty sure they named it all what it is as well, right? Because of the thing. And most of humanity only gets what's given to them by the authority figures here, right? It's right in plain sight. Not washing and washing, being a tie, right? No tie, right? DC, right? And people don't look at can't even see what's right in front of their face, and something like that, right? Washington and not washing, no tie. Because they're never taught to think about any of these words or anything in different ways. They're just taught you're here. Washington, well, it's a fucking name. It comes from your first president. All of that crap, right? But it's now it could. There's some variability in it too. Not washing is one way. Washington, ton. And if you just space it out that way, right? Because really what we got going on is a not left and a washing right. But if it was all right, it'd be washing right and ton right, which means cleaning up a ton of fucking shit. But the way it manifests out is through the not and through the wickedness and evil and shit. And, right? Everything Washington, D.C. has done for quite a long time. It's been nothing but a wicked ass fucking joke. Invading motherfuckers all over the world and all this bullshit about democracy. It's an absolute fucking joke, right? The handful of hundreds of people that make all the decisions, it's not a fucking democracy, right? And it's an idiocracy and then kleptocracy and all kinds of other ocracies. Then that's not a fucking democracy. If it was a democracy, none of those fucking wicked handfuls or hundreds would be there at all, right? The people have hated and don't support what these fuckers have done, right, forever. What's the approval rating of Congress? Well, it's in the fucking shitter, and it always is and always has been. Why? Because they're criminal fucking hypocrite fucking bastards in everything that they do. They're bought off scumbags, and they don't do any. They're not public servants. They're supposed to be public servants. They're leaders, right? And public servants would be all about that equality and doing right by everybody, and right, what they've become is world leaders instead, right? And that's just about everything for us, and fuck at the expense of everything else, right? But anyways, I said at the beginning I want to make a short video, and it might not be that short. This one is not that short. But all of these morals, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. That's why I'm building what I'm building. This is where the equation of everything comes from. I'm going to continue working on the words to use for each age. And the intention is to build letter for letter the entire great year all the way out from the first two, A and B, 1008, 2016 years, and then a new set of words for the next 1008 years all the way through, and then that final set of words for the finisher that goes on the end of it. A, B, O, Father, Tree for that last 659 years, right? At that great year. Now there are other things we can use, and I can also do an equality path, because we're talking about 659 and change, right? Just like I said about the 365 day a year deal. There's always been 366. So we're looking at this, it could actually be considered 660, right? Because we've got the next year started. It's a partial, less than a hundredth of it, but it's gone into 659 full years, and this one started means there's 660 partials within it, right? And that would be the 330 combinations. There's tons of these. I've already got all the stuff worked out on it, right? Different morals to use that way, so we wind up equals all the way through. But there is reasons why I'm using equality all the way through and ending with a Zion positive type perspective, and that's basically based upon the view from the heavens after all of this is fixed. When there is no longer any matter, there is no electron, proton action anywhere at all. There's no waters, there's no earth. It's all formless and void. Everything is back to the state of neutron, which is not dark matter. Matter is electron proton base. It's dark, but it's not matter. The same name does not apply upon it as what applies on all of the stuff that we have as far as matter, and it's different perspective stuff. Maybe I'll even formulate some others to go the other way. This is a Zion deal ending, right? I can formulate them to go the other way too. Maybe show some action like that, both from both sides, and the pure equality path, right? If I go the pure equality path, right, then the ABs, all that, attach on, right? Everything stays, right? All that shit that happened, right? Boom, at the end of it, it all equals out. And then everything is returned and restored back to what it was, and all the numbers are always going to express just the way they did at the very beginning when this is all that existed, right? It's all that existed. Doesn't matter how many of them, right? Trillions and trillions and trillions and Googles and Googles and Googles and Googles of them, right? Every which way it is, it's all as above, so below deal, right? This expression here, I didn't create this. Somebody created this for me, right? Uses a side-by-side thing. I would, when I do it, I'd express it 240 over 240 when I write it on paper, right? For the as above, so below concept. It kind of flows into this, but these are reverse keys of these two that the creator of this application did basically on their own. They used all of my information, but I did not have a hand in designing this or any of the stuff that was used, right? This whole movement in here, right? That's based off of things that I was teaching at the time. All of the formulas to calculate the letters and the words and all of that, that's all based off of what I was teaching. The production of all of the different keys, that's all based, that's the only one in the world teaching it, right? And the creator of this app took all of my concepts and ideas and put this together, right? Then I've got a lot more things, and there's a lot more applications of this application doesn't fully do. But I've never been big into computers, and I don't know anybody real handy that has gotten involved with anything, but I've got a lot of ideas as far as putting some muscle, some hustle behind some computer muscle for doing a lot of different things. There's a lot of other things that can be done, right? The word is basically infinite as well, just like I'm talking about here, this unknowable infinite number of how many ever beings in the heaven in neutron form existed prior to the fall, or even right now in those that are not trapped in this fallen material looking shit, right? The word is the same way. What it applies to and creates and does is literally just about infinite. You can count your entire life and you're still going to be counting and finding new things that it does and creates and shows, and because absolutely everything that there is was created according to it as well, right? One of the big things about all of this, right, is, right, operating on the 4s and the 8s, right? There is no 9 portions of anything, not until here, and it's the gap, it's the deficiency, right? So all the sacred geometry stuff that we're doing, and it's always revolving on 9, and people say, oh, this is all sacred, 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 right? But the word for the 9 is 9, 150, 213, sin, sick, self, right? All of that is about deficiency, right? And earth here, it's not really something to be revered as, right? It's not something that's sacred. It's not something that has the durability of eternity. It's an abomination, really. Just like the moon is an abomination, the sun is an abomination. Everything that's in matter, everything that you see everywhere is an abomination. Us as human beings and our human bodies are where all these measures come from. The foot, the thumb, and the inch, right? And all of the different things, the mile and the gait of the humans, and every measurement that we have, it comes off of the human body. And a lot of this stuff is revered by people. It's just they're still wrapped in a lot of ignorance, and it's like the worship of the self, right? My body is sacred. This body of earth is sacred. This body is sacred. They don't have to grasp it. It's all fallen. Just like our bodies are not durable in eternal form, right? Neither is the earth. Neither is the moon. Neither is the sun, neither is any of the matter. Everything with a deficiency, right, is not durable, proper, and what sacred is supposed to mean. So all of this stuff on the 9s and everybody revering it, it's just a lack of education, right? Everybody who is super into worshiping the sacred geometry and the creations of sacred geometry and all of that, they're missing the awareness to be able to see accurately what's in their plain sight, and all of those things that they're calling sacred actually being the entire opposite of what that word sacred is supposed to mean, right? So with that said, I know I went a long ways and I said a lot, but I'm trying to share and explain as I go what I'm doing here, right? And I know that the stuff that I showed out there, like I was using Rick Berg's creation of the 504, right? And anybody looks at this, oh, that's all fucking gibberish. That's gibberish deal, but I was just showing an example of the path, right? What was it? And I started to show a little bit of getting into the form of being legible and coherent, right, in terms of using those, right? All that fucking crap that he laid out and I laid out there, right? You just look at it doesn't really have meaning, right? When I get in here, right now we're starting to get into meaning, and I can do all of these conversions into everything about Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, the Tanakh, and so much that I can get into, right? The Bible code, right? We predate Cain and Abel, right? It's on the AB side before the fall, before generations, right? That's another thing, is there's no such thing as generations in what was before the fall. All brothers and sisters, siblings, no fathers, no mothers, no nothing. When this is all over, there also will be no generations, no fathers, no mothers in the heavens whatsoever. All brothers and sisters and equals again, right? Only within this fallen stuff and deficiency do we now have generations, right? The snake, the serpent, Hydra, devouring itself and everything else, right? So when I'm doing we predate Cain and Abel, we're talking about on the left side before the fall, the peace that was had there, right? And we predate is a predator. Now we're talking about on the fallen side when we're in the generations, right? And they go out, they don't tell you it's the first sin, but they tell you it's the first death, the first killing deal. Why has your countenance fallen? Am I my brother's keeper and all that bullshit and whatever, right? So when I go along and play the Bible code, I can literally get into it. And everything within the Bible is nothing but stories of events happening at different time periods as these ages change. And these are the accurate ages, right? The 12 age deal here is so ridiculous, it's not even funny. That's why absolutely nobody can tell you a thing about, oh, the age of Aquarius, when it... Nobody knows anything about any of it definitively, because there's no way to know, because none of the stuff that they're doing lines up, right? When they've got the skies bisected the way they do by the 2160, right? 12 times, 12 ages, absolutely nothing lines up, absolutely nothing is clear. It's all hogwash, everything going on with it, right? But I guarantee you that as soon as you bisect it down in terms of one 2016 piece of the pie, and then 1008 all the way around, and then that 659 and just change there for the unknowable day and the hour, right? That's why it is in there, right? That then you can go through and look at the objects on the face of the sky, and everything would clear up for everybody. All of these people that have spent their entire lives trying to match together the 12 ages that we use to objects on the sky at certain times, right? Never got anywhere. They could be here a million years. And if we're going around the same pattern, they'll never get anywhere. Well, if they took what I tell them right here and applied that to the face of the sky and re-bisected it this way, very quickly, especially for those who are ultra knowledgeable in terms of the objects and everything and the movements of on the face of the sky, but they're just not looking through the right lenses. But they have a lot of deep things, right? That this is a semi-minor change that would be applied, and boom, 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 everything will line up for them, right? They take what I give them right here from this, which has always been in the plain sight within the word, apply that to the face of the sky and everything, and boom, everything that they've ever worked on and had no chance of solving will all of a sudden get solved. And you know exactly when each age is changing, and you know exactly as well that there's 25 ages on the face of the sky, right? 2016 year for one period, 659 for two periods, and 23 periods at 1008, right? Then you'd come to understand everything and be able to truly match up the objects for when the changes are happening, and you'd be able to do all kinds of things, right? But the reason why there's all these different opinions and absolutely nobody can tell anybody horse shit about any of it is because the model they're using in terms of bisecting and looking at it, the lens is it's a piece of garbage, right? They're looking into who knows? I could come up with different analogies, but what they're looking into is not gonna do it for them. If they look into it this way that I just talked about here, it'll do it for them, right? And then you'll be able to accurately see all of the different changes as they occur. Because when these changes do happen in the heavens, and we shift from these one ages to the other, they literally change. They cause changes here, right? This is a massive change when this first happened right here, but it's an application. It changes the charges. Boom, this is a change. It's changing each age coming on. Now it's fighting back and forth. This is a change, right? And there are literal effects, right? A lot of the concepts that they can't really apply accurately because they don't have the right stuff and they're not looking at the right stuff, right? There's some validity to all of these things. Things change. When each new age is entered into, things change, but it's a lot more frequent than their 12 age thing goes, right? And right, all these different changes happen at different times, and right, what they're trying to do can't really explain it like clockwork, but there is something, and that's what I'm showing you here, that will be able to explain it like clockwork. When you know what's going on and you live from a portion, the end of one of these through the beginning of one of these, right, and you know all about that, well, you'll be able to literally in real time watch those changes occur and know why they are occurring if you have the right knowledge set, right? You'll be able to accurately predict, and then when you get some experience in it with which way the changes are going, you'll be able to accurately say, well, hey, in these areas things are going to change and they're going to get better. In these areas are going to get worse, right? You got some real bad tyrants involved here. Let's say there's tyranny and you're being ruled by tyrants, right? Well, when this comes out, these things are going to be worse. Whatever's in power and abusing everything at that time at sea, when that it's going to be worse. This age here, things are going to get better, right? Things are going to get better. It's a little more closer to balance, to equals, right? They're going to get a little bit better. They're not going to get fixed, but they're going to get a little bit better, right? And then when you get to the point where it's all the way A, B to Z, A, B, C, and you recreate this again in 12, 12, 12, 12, well, then there's a potential there, and it's the only time there ever is any potential for the two to make peace in the one house. When two make peace with each other in the one house, they'll say to the mountain, move away, and the mountain will move away. There's two different mountains, Sion Mountain, and then eventually Zion Mountain. One of them has absolutely no shot to be eternal, right? It's the Sion Mountain, the original one. And the other way to Zion, the way everything is set up, after that Q, where the formula comes from on the 23rd trip, right? That's the potential to start for the rise of potentially eternal Mount Zion. So, again, I went super long, but all of this stuff is important, and a lot of people they like better when I talk about things than just show things, right? When I talk about things, it winds up being huge length of time in the videos. Yes, people can follow along better, but right, when I just make those quick short videos, I throw some music on, I show a little something, right, I'm able to then, I'm showing you a ton of stuff, but it's all about, right, the receiver. The messages I put out are absolutely massive, and the information is absolutely massive in a really short video, right? And it's more convenient for me because I can't sit down all the time and talk for hours and hours at a time, right? But I can sit down and make a quick video in 2 minutes to 5 minutes to 10 minutes, and I can put it out there for those who are capable of working with it to get a ton of stuff in a very short time where it's easy on me, right? But a lot of people especially over the years. I've been at this now in the 11th year of teaching the real Word of God to the world, everybody who wants it, right? No charge, no charge, right? And everybody who's ever tried legitimately and put effort into picking it up, they all pick it up. They think it's all, some people look and say, oh, this is all way too complex and I can't do this math. It's all simple math. It's all very simple math. Any children, even of a very young age, can do this, right? The vast majority of all people in the world have all the skills in the world to do this, but they get overwhelmed by just seeing things, and perhaps a lot of them have issues with themselves in terms of their own confidence in their own abilities, and they see some stuff going on that I'm doing and think, oh, well, that's beyond the grasp of what I could do or what I could understand, but they're severely underestimating themselves in terms of what they're capable of, and they're severely overestimating the complexity of what I've got going on here. It's not that complex. It's not super high level mathematics. It's hard to follow, right? It's not rocket science, even though it's going to produce you much more results and value than rocket science ever could, or any of the other sciences, right? Absolutely everything that there ever is to learn about and create, that was created, everything. There's no limits to what can be learned through this. There's no limits to what these numbers produced here can do and show and reveal and have done, right? When you get into really looking at this stuff, then you can look around and you can match it up and say, oh my goodness, this was all created on the basis of this word here, right? And there's instance after instance, right? People don't even realize our months are all set up as alphabetic forms, right? And there's massive moral why there are none that end on 27, right? We got an alphabet goes 1 to 26, 1 and 2 to 26. Then we got a calendar, which is also alphabet, because it's 1 to 31. It's the entire first two scripts, just like Genesis 1 shows. And Genesis 1, 403466 is full month, right? 31 days, 31 verses in Genesis 1, Genesis chapter 1, right? But our leap day uses 29. February uses 28. All the other months use 30 and 31. But why is there this gap? Why? Why? Why does it never go higher than 31? Why does it never end on any 27? Right? All of this, it's alphabet related, right? And the answers to these things are within the word, right? There are months that are used today are created by a series of alphabets. It's different, right? What I'm showing you is 1 to 26, 1 to 26 repeating for the great year. Well, they have a little bit different thing in there. But it also shows you the 1 to 26 repeating great year. It says these alphabets repeat 12 times over the months. They never end once on a 27. They always end on something later. So it's talking about a future, something into the future. But it's really, if you look at the calendar and you know the word, you got everything in the word, that 27 missing ending point starts out, because you know there's a connection between the alphabet and them. And now it is showing you what has always been in your plain sight, right? Everything is revolving on cycles of 1 to 26, which is why they never go across the bridge. 27, it's always way out, jumped over 27 to the 28, 29, 30, 31, right? Different things like that, right? It's simple. You've seen this calendar and you know the orders. You put your knuckles together if you ever were in accounting classes or anything like that, right? About the months with 31 and the bumps and the ones with less and things like that. People have all this stuff is in your plain sight, but once you get into the word and you understand the word, now you go back to that calendar and you look at it and you know what's been in your plain sight begins to be revealed to you. There is all kinds of morals and messages in it, and it's all alphabetical order based on the full month, right? Very similar to the concept that I'm showing you here, the repeating great years. What's your calendar based on those again? 12 months, right? It's just like the face of the sky. I'm telling you, the 12 concept on the face of the sky is corrupted. You're not going to get anywhere. Well, you look at the 12 concept in terms of the months on the calendar, it's also corrupted. But to correct and be able to identify and understand the corruption within your calendar and upon your face of the sky, you go into the Word and we correct all of that and see everything that's been hidden, even though you've been looking at it your entire life. And we come to understand that by having the Word and going through the Word. When we get the skills within the Word, they transfer out to all of these other things. They are created based upon knowledge of the Word. Right? This 31 is a 9779. That's a complete end of the third script or second script. Character number 32 has a value of 103, 101, 101, right? Now we're really getting into higher education when you get into here, right? And at the beginning, slot 1, single digits. Slot 2, double digits. Slot 3, or slot 2, single digits, right? They're together. That's one script. Slot 3, 12, 21, double digits. From 3 to 31 is all double digits. 32 begins triple digits, right? That's knowing the Word, right? Now, the other thing I do is I teach the Word even beyond the Z. They have applications. It continues to go. Everything that calculated the order 1 to 26 also continues to calculate the order out, and all of those things, they reveal things. Right? So that's why your calendars end on 31 days and don't go longer, right? Because that's a legit end. It's word-based. Word-based calendar. And it's in series. It's alphabet after alphabet after alphabet. But they're perverted. They're perverted, but they're showing through omission, right, important things too. And all of this stuff can be grasped massively better once you get the Word within you and start learning. You take it out in the world. All the things that were created by it does it, right? We could calculate out the 366-day order, right? There's going to be 40 vowels that are as above, so below in the entire year, right? We go into the A to Z that we've got, and we've got slot 1, slot 2, slot 16, and slot 21, right? 40, and all this number, right? You go in the Bible, 40 is constantly used, 40 days a night, 40, 40, 40, right? The 40 save 1, 40 in the 39, all of these instances, and lashes, and all of it, right? When you get into within the Word, now you see all the significance of the 40 is absolutely all word-based, right? And you can take that out to all of these concepts of these uses of 40 days, wandering for 40 years, and all of that stuff that's going on, right? When you have the Word, now it starts to really reveal that stuff that's in your plain sight. People have a small little grasp of it, of what the significance of the 40s is all about. And once you get the Word, now the full grasp of it is going to be in your capabilities, Whereas without the word, you'll never have any capabilities to be able to really grasp what that 40 is all about, right? And the first and the last are one and the same. Well, that's about those first two, right? People have no idea. You look into the crap and they're talking alpha and omega. You'll see modern different people will say A to Z or A to Z at first and last. Well, they don't understand that there's an original script that's only two deep, and they're the first and they're last, and they're one and the same. Right? When you get into that, you see the name of Abba. Now you understand. First and last, one and the same. The first is first. The second is second. The first is second. The second is first. All right? All of these different things, and that's also why the 4039, right? Because that's a first and that's a first, right? So legitimately here you can be talking about, you got 37 solid here. You can look at them as 40 at the 3, but you can look at them as 39 as the 2, or you can look at them as 41 as the both as the second or the last, right? In the English language, there's only one number programmed in alphabetical order, F-O-R-T-Y, and there's only one programmed in reverse alphabetical order, O-N-E, right? 40 and 1. We switch even into this simple gematria. Number 14 is using the 104, right? Because 14 is 41 backwards. So 14 is formulated to simple 104, which is 41 backwards, right? 14, 40. Now it's got the 8 and the 4. We could even think about this. Look at different things that we're doing, right? A and B. The reason between the 39 thing. That's part of what we're working on there. And there are applications. Everybody in this world who has ever gone through any of these simple gematria forms has never gone anywhere. They never had any ability to get anywhere. But there are some clues, right, for anybody to really be able to work with simple gematria, any of this Hebrew gematria, all this stuff that produces one single key. For them to ever be able to really get anything out of it, they have to have this right here. Then they can go back, and the value of those things that are in those other forms, just like A, B to Z is the 351, and the fish, all of that, right? They won't be able to get a grasp of the really significant things and link anything together and pull different things apart, right, until they get here into the word. And then when they did, and when this is all that they had, they also made a ton of mistakes, and they got caught up in saying shit and thinking shit. It was complete bullshit because what they're working with only had one option, right? If you're just reading a total letter word without any numbers at all, you only got one option, one place you're heading. You're going to be deceived the vast majority of the time. When you increase that to just reading the letter word and any of these simple gematria, one key producing things, you also only have one possible destination, right? To be deceived and misled the vast majority of the time. It's not until you actually get the real word in your hands that you can go back and actually get everything out of what is within the letter word and what is within these very simple forms of gematria that nobody's ever got anywhere with in the world, even though some of them believe that they have. So let's look at this. I'm going to say Joshua. All right, Joshua is a 74 in simple gematria. Over here, 251, 197. Right? didn't spell it right, but Joshua. Then you're going to see Jesus is 74. And over here, different. Now, there are things that are just like Jesus, right? In there. But let's go here. Lucifer, right? Also 74. Gematria, 74. Different deals going on, right? So there's been so many people in here that is just misled by this stuff and saying Jesus is Lucifer, is Joshua, is yada yada yada, right? Now, there are some of the connections that are valid within there, but there are so many absolutely ridiculous things in there that it really, the numeric word in terms of the single key gematria has done more harm than good by a magnitude of massive magnitude for everybody that's ever used it. There is not one single person who has ever used any of these forms of gematria and gotten a positive benefit to themselves, gotten any step closer to actual truths or being able to explain or anything, right? They've all been harmed by it, right? Now, of course, Satan's is 74. Satan's not Jesus, right? But Satan's got a very strong relation with gematria. It's a mirror out, right? Gematria. And those are both 74 mirrors, Satan's and gematria. The mirror to Jesus could be something like Prince. And it's not even on the 74, right? It's a 65. That would also be the risen, right? You know, risen and Jesus go together, right? You know the story. This is where they really go together, right? Over in that simple gematria, right? There's no, it's 74 now, right? You'll see that 9, right? That 9 difference thing here. There's so many words within the actual word. Their actual relations to what they actually relate to are in simple gematria in multiples of 9, below and above where they're at. There are some that relate 74 to 74, right? Gematria 74 relates in mirror, right? The word Satan's, right? And that basically is the deal that's going on here with that, right? If somebody wants to lie to you and deceive you and things like that, right? And things that everybody talks about Satan in terms of temptation and, well, the temptation and got to me and that's why I fucked up and whatever else or whatever. Well, in this lens, that's exactly what gematria in this single key form is, right? Same thing, right? Satan's gematria got me along the path of believing that Jesus and Lucifer are one and the same and doing all this other crazy ass bullshit and telling people all these lies that Jesus is Lucifer and yada yada yada, right? Similar type things, but man, I'm coming up on 2 hours here, so I better end it here, right? I could talk about this stuff all day, every day, 24 hours a day. And originally, I had tried to get live streaming going here, but the internet and everything is just couldn't do it, right? Because I wanted to do more stuff like this, but do it in a setting where people could just show up, ask about this, ask about that, have comments on what they're seeing, and for me to be able to address them in real time as we go. But it just didn't work out. Perhaps someday I will get somewhere where I have the ability to consistently broadcast and teach, right, in real time on live feeds, but I don't have that right now, so I do what I can do and stuff like this. Very rarely do I make one this long, but all right, this is just one little drop out of the bucket of what I've got to even talk about, right? And because the word uncovers and reveals all things, right? And I'm the epitome of having experience and capabilities from understanding that and applying it, right? What I just shared and what I just talked about is one drop in a very large bucket of what I've already got, right? But that bucket also is just one drop compared to what's still left within the world in terms of the oceans, right? So there's so much in there that if I could get billions of people to right now all pick this word up and all start going at it, and we would all combine be able to continue to just go at it and reveal and reveal and reveal and non-stop, right? Almost limitless, right? Although there is moral that when we finally learn everything that we really need to learn and we got down the real deal truths, we're all going to come back to this right where we began before the fall at that equality deal, right? And one of the biggest morals of it all is that every single form of more and less really is there's massive issues. It's a sinful type of thing, right? It's not correct, right? Now there's all kind of logic, everything in here in the world that justifies it, blah 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 blah. But really, when it comes down to it, every time things are applied as more and less is an unjust and very sinful and wrong thing to be doing, and that's not where we were in the beginning. That's not where we'll be in the end because they're one and the same, right? This bullshit of more and less is just it's in between, right? We got to learn the no less lesson here about what it's like to endure the fuck ups of being in a place of more and less, which is what all of this is, being deficient, right? Because of more and less caused that deficiency, right? Inside of more and less is everything devours everything. Everything's at war with everything. It's because of more and less, right? And none of that more and less and all of the nasty shit that we see here exists in the actual environment of everything is equals, right? No charge, right? Dark precedes light, right? Light is a manifestation of the fall. Let those who have ears hear, not let those who have eyes see. On and on and on and on with that stuff. But anyways, I gotta shut this thing off. So with that said, please like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel if you think that's something you should do. And have a nice day. And a special thanks if there is anybody who has sat almost 2 hours through this to the end of it. But that's that. That's all, folks.